Hey, welcome to another video about Excel. Now in this chapter we're going to be doing chapter 3, which is graphing. Now Excel's two main functions are to do calculations, and probably the second most important one is do graphing. So let's get into the graphing. All right, first thing, starting in on the temp versus time 1 worksheet, I'll show you the finished product. This is where we're going to, and I made another copy that just has a starting point. So you'll just have to do a little typing of these values. All right, so step 1 in making a graph is we want to highlight the data that we want to graph, and usually you'd also want to highlight the headings above. Okay, next up you come on over here to the insert window. Usually it's on home. Come on over to insert, and there's a bunch of choices here. Now stay away from this line chart unless you're told specifically to use it. This is something that business people use. This doesn't act like a regular graph that you know of. You do not hit that one. Use the one that looks like a graph. Okay, so you want to scatter. Now there's a drop down that gives you a bunch of pre-made choices. All right, we can change anything along the way. The author on page 125 says use this second one. Okay, the second one includes both the data points, which are known as markers, and then this connecting line. Okay. All right, next thing we're going to do is we want to put some features in here, and they say to use a layout. Okay, so I'm going to click on the chart. There's in the design tab there should be something called a quick layout, which there is over here. I'll drop this down. There's a bunch of layouts. This one looks pretty good, the first one, because it includes a title, axis, y-axis, x-axis, and also something known as a and this over here is known as a legend. Okay, so this is the plain Jane thing we're going to work with, and we're just going to start modifying some things. All right, first off, we are going to you can change the title, and we just click on that, type temperature versus time. I don't really like this title because it doesn't add much of anything. I would want to give what the physical situation was there. The title should give you some information that isn't someplace else. We're going to click on these axis titles over here and highlight. You can see pretty quickly that it's temp, and now they have a degree C. Now you're saying, well, where am I going to get a degree symbol from? Insert symbol, that's where you're going to find it from. Okay, so we want to find the degree symbol. So I'm going to go over here to insert and over here to symbol, click on this, and oh wow, there it is. But you're usually not going to find it so quickly. Okay, so if you're looking in here, I searched this whole thing. It'd be nice if they had a little search bar here, but it doesn't look like they do. So I just scroll down until I see something that looks like it, and there it is, kind of on the third scroll down. So I just hit insert, and the nice thing is after I use it once, it'll go up to the recently used symbols. But anyway, that's how I get the degree. I'll put a capital C, a parentheses, so I got that. Over on this axis, I'm putting time sec. Okay. This temp over here, that has been grabbed from this table, so I'm just going to leave that as is for now. And I'm going to go forward in the page. I'm just skipping through, and eventually I'm going to change some marker sizes. So I'm going to come over here to the graph, just enlarge it a little bit. All right. Now, if you click on the graph once, it selects everything in the graph. If you double click, it'll just click on one thing. So you want the whole graph. You want to change the entire series. Okay, so There I've selected it. Now over on the right it comes up here, format the data series, and you can do some things like you don't want a line through the points, you just go like that. It shows you what it does. Okay, so right now I selected no line. Now it's automatic, no line, automatic. It doesn't come back. Okay, so that's the fill. Okay, let's come on over into here. Okay, so one of the things we want to do is change this marker style. Let's choose this again. Okay, so now we're up here to marker. So I click on marker. Now I get some options on the marker. So I would like to change it to a size 7. So marker options. Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to use, no, don't use automatic, so use built-in. And now I'm going to use a diamond, and I want to increase it to a size 7. Okay. And we can fill it with anything that we'd like. We got automatic fill, but we could change the colors and all that stuff. All right, so now we've got that. And it looks like actually they've chosen no fill. So I better go to the fill option, bring this down here, border, color, that's the border color. Okay. Fill, okay, it's right here. So we're going to go to no fill. Okay, so I got this right here. So I got those diamonds, and just going back to just click on them so you get the marker. Just make sure, because they look kind of small right now to me. And marker options, well, it says a 7, so that's what we are going to go with. Okay. Now if you print out in blue, it might be hard to see. So let's come over here. We got fill, solid fill, the border, got automatic. Let's just go to a darker color. Okay, let's go to black. All right, so far I've got this graph. I'm just going to move this to the side. All right, now I have to get a second set of data in here. So let's say I put this data in, and I've already typed this into a previous spreadsheet. I'm just going to grab this, Control C. I can bring it in here. All right, so now I've got a predicted. Okay, and I want to plot the actual temperature and then the predicted temperature on here. And what I do is I want to add this data set. Now I could just make a whole new graph. That doesn't take long. Or I can click on this area right here, and notice that that highlights the area that's being used in the graph. Now all we've got to do is just pull this over. See that? I'm just pulling it over with that. I increase the size. Now I've got a second set of data in there. Okay. Let me just make this bigger. Okay. So for some reason things are getting tight over in here, so I probably messed around with this a little bit. All right, so now I've got a second set of data. Now, I want this to be a hashed line, so I'm going to click on this set of data. So I'm going to do a few things. Marker options, there's going to be no marker. Okay, that's going to take it away. But I want a line. I want solid line. That's a solid line. Now, there's got to be some options in here, which there are. So I'll take this kind right here and just put OK, or just click someplace. So now I've got our first graph, and it shows temperature, degree C, versus time. It has a legend over here, and I guess that's pretty good. Let's look at what I had. Okay, looks like mine had a little more area out in there versus this. I guess I could decrease this a little bit, move it around. So there's different things you can do. All right, so that's temp versus time number 1. Okay, so temp versus time number 2. Okay, so what's the deal here? All right, so this is going to start on page 136. Okay, so we're going to start on 136. Actually, it starts on 135. And we're going to add a second set of data. Now, I'm going to just delete this data set from the graph. Okay, so that's gone. So my graph has that. So let's say you just added this new set of time and predicted temperature. And you want to add something now. Now, the old way was you just grabbed this and you pulled it over, but that's not going to work well because we don't have data down here. So I'm just going to undo. All right. So there's going to be a special way we do this. All right, so let's put this new set of data in. Okay, here's the procedure. You click on the graph. You then have to go up to Design. I click on Design. We put Select Data. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add. I hit Add. It happened quickly, sorry. And then we go and we click on, the name will be this predicted. The X series will be the times. And the Y series will be these predicted values, and we'll put OK. We have another set now called predicted. The first one was temperature. These will be used for the legend. We put OK, and notice the new legend. All right, so we've got the new data in, and we want to change that so that it is just a solid line. So let's click on one of the red squares, and usually when you do that, something happens. Let's come off of here. So I'll click on the graph. I'll click here, and what happened to my edit stuff? Double click. Okay, so it looks like I have to double click. I get that thing up. So I hit that one time to select the whole series. And I go to Series Options, click. That does nothing for me. So I click on this. Markers. It's always a little cumbersome. I'll click here, Series Options. How about Fill in Line? Okay, that makes sense. Line, I want a solid line. I'll just keep it black. Marker, I come over here, do markers. I don't want a marker, and I put none. So there I've got my second set of data right through there. Okay, so that brings me up to figure 324 on page 139. All right, now it talks about messing around with the X and the Y axis options. Okay, so there's a few ways to do this. In the chart tools, format axis, so design, axis titles, axes. Okay, so I can do primary horizontal. I do this. What's it do for me? Nothing. Okay. So I'm going to undo that. Okay. Design, format. Okay, in Excel 3, 2, 1, size and property does nothing. Axis options. Okay, now we got something. So I go with axis. So I had axis options, and again, axis options. I mean, who did this? Now, normally, it's just automatic scaling, and it's going from 0 to 20. But if you want to override the automatic, since I don't have any values bigger than 15, I can just type in 15 for my maximum now. Just click someplace. It'll update the graph and change that. You know, if I want to override any of the tick marks or anything, I can do that. Now, for the horizontal majors, if I change that, look what happens if I make that 2. Notice it puts a grid line every 2. Minor, that puts a grid line, but it doesn't put a value. So we're going to go back, double click on that. We know we got to click on this again. So I'm not going to mess with that. Let's put this back to 5. So those are the major grid lines that are going to be labeled with a number, and the minor ones, if I really don't want any minors, I just put it the same as the majors. Okay. So those are some things. It's a little quirky over here in the formatting of the area. And finally, we get to figure 328. So that is time temperature 2. Basically, you want to change something, you click over here, and then you mess around over here in the formatting, and eventually you'll get as good as, well, you'll get better than I will, because I tend to get confused with this new thing. Used to be a little different. Used to be easier, but they've improved it and made it more cumbersome. I'm moving over here into temp versus time 3. All I did was copy temp versus time 1 over. I got rid of the predicted column. I've got this graph sitting right here. And now on pages 135 to 145, it's talking about adding a trend line. And the directions in the book are a little dated, so let me show you the easiest way that I could find to put a trend line, which means an equation, in here. So a left click on the data, which is the data that you see highlighted, and instead of hunting around, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a trend line. Okay, so now trend line comes up over here in the right. And you know something, I found that instead of searching over here in the right box, it's a lot easier to, if you want to change something, it's just to click on it, then right click, and then like if you want to format the axis, you do that, and then it'll pop up over here in the right what you want to do, as opposed to trying to navigate through this. So from now on, let's try to think of doing that. You want to modify something, select it, right click, and then we'll get the right thing over here. So right now I got a linear trend line. I don't want that. I don't know how it came up. I wasn't paying attention. So I clicked on it. So linear, I don't want that. In the book, they want us to put an exponential one. So I put exponential. And let's see. I want to display the equation on the chart and the r squared value, which is a measure of how well the fit is. The closer r squared is to 1, the better the fit. Okay, so it looks like it did it, and it put it over here. Now, if you want to make things look a little bit better, okay, so I'm going to, I want to put a box around this and a white fill, so when I bring this over into the chart, I'm overlapping the grid lines. Okay, so I'm going to see if my new method works. Left click, right click on it, format trend line label. Okay, let's try that. Format trend line label. Okay. Effects, fill and line. Okay, that looks fill. Border. We'll put a solid line around it. And let's go to fill. Let's fill it with, let's do solid fill. and just generally use white, and now that'll be good right there. Okay, so there's an equation. You put it in the graph, it looks really nice. Now you can go and change this as it talks about on 143. You could change it to a polynomial, but that's just a matter of clicking on the trend line, right clicking, format trend line, and you can change to polynomial. But you need not do that as long as this sheet ends up with the trend line on there, trend line drawn in. All right, I almost forgot one more element that we're going to add in here to the graph are error bars. So if each of the data points, we've plotted the center at an exact location. Now in reality, there's probably some experimental error in the actual temperature value. So we add something called error bars to show what the possible variation of that value is. So we've plotted where our mean is or where our best guess is, but we want to put some lines above and below to kind of show how much error we have estimated plus or minus. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the graph, the whole graph here. I'm going to go to design, and I'm going to add an element. Now there may be a better way to do this, but I couldn't find one. And we're going to add error bar. A lot of times we'd use custom, but in this case, let's just add a percentage. Okay? And we get this crazy looking thing over here. Well, now what do you do? Well, I'm going to click on one of those error bars and see if I can't change it. So let's right click, format data point. Let's try to get the error bar. Okay, I was able to highlight the error bar. If you have a hard time highlighting the error bar because there's a lot of things, you can just make this bigger and then you can easily click on the error bar. So now I got format error bars. Okay, so effects, fill, and line. Okay, let's try that. Error bar options, I'll try that. Okay, so horizontal, I don't know why that's coming up. I don't even want a horizontal one, so I got rid of it. So I just hit delete. So now let's go to this vertical one. Yeah, I want both. A cap means you'll have a line on the end. We want a fixed percentage. The book said let's put 30% in there. If I do that, now 30% of these bigger values are longer than 30% of these smaller down here. All right, so now we've added our error bars. If you want to change them, you click on them and you can format these in any way you like. You want to make the line thicker or something, you can do that. Okay. So there we go with error bars, temp versus time 3, all set now. Okay, now we're moving into line scatter. Remember I told you when you insert a graph you don't want to use a line graph? Well, let's get this off and let's just show you what we're going to do. So we're moving over here to example 3.2 on page 146. And I've got some data in here. You probably just have to type that in. And now I'm going to make just an easy scatter plot of this. So I'll just grab this. And I'm going to insert and do a scatter. And looks like we'll have it with just a line. We go like that. And I can mess around with the axes and stuff to make it look like they have it in the book. So they're going from 0 to 25, so are we. They're going on the x-axis 0 to 8, so are we, but they're not putting as many grid lines in. So all I need to do is I'll click on the axis, I right click, and I don't know why that didn't come up. I'm going to format the axis. So now it comes over here, and we talked about major and minor units. So in the book it's only labeling every 2. So I'll put 2, and minor I'll put 2 as well. Okay, So it's looking a little bit better. It looks like it wants us to add a title that says scatter. So this is going to be, let's just get rid of this. This is going to be XY scatter. Okay. Now I don't have any axis labels over there. Now there's a few ways to get those in there. I can go to Design, Quick Layout. Okay. That'll get me that. And I just put over here Y, X, and if you don't want this legend, because it doesn't make sense to put a legend if you only have one data set. Okay, so there is my XY scatter. It's obviously a straight line. Okay. Notice that there's not equal spacing between these data points. And if you look on the graph, you can see as we go from 6.1 to 7.4, that's a bigger horizontal span than going from 1 to 1.2. So data points are horizontally spaced closer here on the left and further on the right, as you'd expect in a graph. All right. So to put a line graph in, I'm going to do Insert, and there's line graphs. So let's put well, it's got two of them on here. Let's just take this one. So you're saying, well, what the heck is it doing? Look, it's only putting it's plotting every point out equally spaced, 1 through 12, because there's 12 data points. Now it's showing the Y values up here and the X values down here. I don't even need the X values, so I'm just deleting those. Okay. Now I'm going to get rid of this legend down here. I'm just going to have to do Design, Quick Layout. This is going to be line chart. And you're soon going to see why this is not the type of chart to use for engineering. So here's Y. I don't know what happened to my X label. But if I need to add one because I don't have one, I can add a chart element, axis title, primary horizontal. I got it. And this is going to be X. But you can soon see the last point is plotted at X equal to 12. These aren't even X values. Okay? These are just the data point number 1 through 12. And when you do this, you see that we don't get a straight line like we should. Now, if you want, usually this line chart is used for business applications. Maybe these are like sales regions or something, and you're looking at something. So you don't want a scatter graph, but you can change these X options down at the bottom. All right, so let's say that we want to, instead of having these numbers here, at least put the X values down. Well, let's see how we're going to do this. Let's go up to the Design, and let's do Select Data. Okay. So right now, your horizontal category is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 12. So let's edit that. Axis label range. So we're just going to come over here and choose these things and put OK. And now notice that it used these values in the X column instead of just 1 through 12. So I'll put OK. And that is all you need to do for that one. So that last step, remember, was we clicked on the graph, we went to Design, we selected the data, and we just edited the horizontal range, and there you go. All right, so the end result's right here. So you're saying, oh boy, do I have to type all that in? No, you don't. Let's show you how you can do this one a lot faster. So I'm just going to copy this sheet. Okay. So here's the copy. All right, so you got this. I'm going to redo this. So this is the starting point. Okay, you'll have to label a few things. Okay, our y values are going to go across the top, our x values going down. So you only have to highlight or type in two values here. And remember, if you highlight the two values, Excel can then use the fill handle, and we're going to go across until we get up to 2.0. All right, same thing this way. You just have the trend going, and you get up to 2.0. Just bring that back to here. All right, now we need to put a formula in, which is equal to sine of, okay, we're going to do the sine of A3, okay, that's over here, and they want to make sure the A part never changes, although yeah, you want to make sure that doesn't change, so you always want to use the A column. And I'm going to close that parentheses, and I'm going to multiply that by the cosine of B2. But as we drag this thing, we don't want the 2. We want to get all our values from the 2 row. So we put that in there. So this is a modified form of an absolute address. This one says we want to use all the rows in column A. This one says we want to use all the columns in row 2. So I put OK, and then I can just pull this over to there. It's not letting me go down, but okay, so I go that way, and then I can come down. Doesn't let me drag in two directions. And I get the whole table filled out. Okay? You didn't have to type much of anything. All right, once you have that, now we're going to insert the graph. So it says to highlight, and we're talking about page 150, figures 341, 342. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to highlight all this, and I am going to do insert. Now you say charts. Now which one do I use? Okay, here we go. So that looks like a 3D surface. That one is a wireframe 3D surface, which looks like what we want to use. Okay, and then there's contours. All right, so I found it here. So I click on that, and I get the basic graph. Okay, but it wants us to do some formatting on the axes. So right now, the vertical -1 up to +1 looks okay. This one coming out this way and then the series one have to be changed. Right, now we're in here, and this on the left is considered the y-axis, this on the left the x-axis. I'm just going to get off of this for a second and look at our graph. The vertical, this up and down, is going to be our z, or the value of the function. Okay. This one here, I believe, is the x, and this is the y. All right. So, and then we have a bunch of legends down here, which I'm just going to delete. Okay. In fact, if we're not sure what x and y and everything are, I would suggest that we're going to add an element. Let's look at a quick layout. This will give us axis, or I can just add the chart elements. Axis titles, horizontal. There's that one. So I'm just going to make this x. And that's probably our y-axis right there, but I'm going to do add axis title, primary vertical. That's that one. Looks like it's depth. Okay. This is my y. And finally, this over here, I'm going to add a title, vertical, and that's going to be my function value, f of x comma y. So I got that, my X, my Y. Doesn't look like it's in a real good spot there. I can't even move it. Okay, such is life. All right, we're going to edit these values. Now on the y-axis, unfortunately, these are going to have to get edited one at a time. So I'll just show you how to do a couple, and then you can do the rest, and I'll show you the finished product. All right, so if I want just this first one, because I tried to call that Y, I'm going to edit this. The series name is just going to be -1. Put OK. All right. And then number 2, we're going to edit that one. And that's going to be -0.8. And so on. So I'll continue this process and then I'll be done. Hey, I've just got the last 2 here, so I just click on it, hit edit. I'm going to do 1.8, put OK. And as you can see, it's kind of a tedious process. Do the series 16, hit enter, and hit that. All right, so I've got these Y's all going from -1 to 2. Now, the X ones are a lot easier. So I just click on this. It says, what's the label range? You can just do them all at once. Bam, done. Okay. So now you've got the labels pretty much how they have it in the book. The only thing is these are tipped in a certain way. We can undoubtedly change those. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to format this axis. I'm going to go to labels. I'm going to go to number. And hopefully I can change it. Custom angle. Be nice if I could do that. Horizontal. Okay, there, horizontal clicked in now. Alrighty, so with enough willpower, you can get anything to work. But there's essentially the surface worksheet. Okay. All right, next we're going to move to stress strain. That starts on page 153. What you have here, you're going to create this data here, and you're going to make this first plot, stress versus strain, and that's all the data. But then you're going to use this first graph to determine what data points are in the linear region, and then use those. So you can see it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these right up in here, the first 7. So what I did is I just made another graph down here. I'll just make a third one so I don't mess it up. And I said, okay, I'm just going to make a graph with the first 7. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then just did a quick insert. I'm not going to go through all the steps, but so let's say I did that, and then I added a trend line. So right click, add a trend line. I got options. I got linear. Remember, we want to display the graph, put that on there, and then I just prettied this up a little bit. I did line and fill. I did border. I did a solid line around there, and fill. I did a solid fill that was white. Okay. All right. So just put the axis title, make it look nice, and you should be good. Hey, if you want to read data from a text file right into an Excel spreadsheet, you can do that. Okay, so we've got a file sitting out here, and I'm just going to show you where that is. It's going to be on the M drive in the courses. So courses, M drive, ENR 161, So you got all these files. There's a Rochester precipitation, so I'm going to open that up. So notice this data, it's not in Excel format at all. It's got separators by commas. So let's see if Excel can read this and get it right into the sheet. Okay, so I'm in a precipitation thing, and what I do is I'm going to do File, Open, and I'm going to browse, and I'm going to get back up to the M drive, which I have a pointer to it. M courses right here. ENR 161 homework files. Okay, now you might not see that file because this is going to be defaulting on Excel files, and you're going to look here and say there's no Rochester precipitation. Well, you got to drop this down and go to all files, and now you see, oh, there's Rochester precipitation. So you click on that one and you put open. All right, what it does is it opens up a brand new, it's going to open up a brand new spreadsheet. First of all, the file type best describes your data. Delimited, that means the data is separated by columns in each row. Okay, you could have a fixed width, but we don't. My data has headers. Yeah, it does. So I'll just click on that. Do next. Delimiters tab. This screen lets you set the delimiters your data contains. Well, it doesn't really have a tab, it's got a comma. Okay, and once I did that, it looks like it was able to separate it into two columns. I'm going to go next, just keep general, that's good, and I'm going to finish. And bam, it opened up a new spreadsheet, called it Rochester Precipitation. So now you can just take that data right there, do a Control C, go back to my spreadsheet, and go up to the top, and then do Control V, and that's how you get data into a spreadsheet. I just want to talk a little bit about the thermocouple problem because it's changed a little bit from the book. In fact, the book is a little confusing. So just follow the steps that are on your homework sheet. But you want to have a table that looks something like this, and your predicted voltages based on temperature are going to be found by, taking a log of each side and then doing the exponential and so forth. Okay, so one of the things that the book gives you on page 169 is the relationship between temperature and voltage. Now, when you have to figure out voltage given a temperature, you have to isolate voltage. You have to take some logs and exponentials, and you get this function here. So that's one hint for you. So use this table. Now you're going to put two sets of data, the thermocouple average millivoltage and also the predicted. Then I want you to put the standard deviation error bars on these data points. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. All right, so select those things and let's right click. Doesn't look like there's anything we can do with right click. So we're going to go up to Insert, go to Design, Chart Elements. Let's go to Error Bars. Let's go to More Error Bars. Okay, now over here we're going to go to Custom Error Bars. And we're going to use a cap both. Okay, so we're going to specify a value. Let's come over here, we'll specify the values again. It's not the temperature data, it's the standard deviation. So let's try again. So I'm going to do that. And down here I'm going to do the same one, the standard deviation. And I'm going to put OK. And that's good. Now, whether you want it or not, Excel seems to give you these horizontal error bars. Okay, so what you do is you highlight that, find somewhere where you can highlight the horizontal and then just hit delete and it'll be gone. Okay, horizontal error bars on the thermocouple averages, which are these. So plot that all up, make it look nice, make us proud. Alrighty, then you're going to just make some pie charts over here, and then some column charts, and you're going to have yourself or a column chart, and you're going to have a nice looking workbook.